No, I'm not 6'8", 380 pounds. You know, I am not Tychus. I do not look like Tychus Finlay, but I am Tychus J. Finlay.
Hi guys, this is Jojo from SC2News, and if you would mix 1 part Optimus Prime, 1 part Hawkman, 1 part Richard Nixon, and 1 part Tychus Finlay, you would get the guest I am talking to today. It is, of course, the voice of Tychus, the superb, the great, Neil Kaplan. How are you doing?
I'm flattered with that introduction. Whoa, I don't know if I can live up to the hype, but I'll do my best.
I think you can. Let's start right away with a question about your background before I force you to talk to us in this awesome Tychus voice. I read that you started as a comedian impersonating Nixon and Reagan. Is that true?
Among others, yeah. I used to do impressions when I was a kid. So I was the 8-year-old in my elementary school who did Jimmy Stewart and Jimmy Carter and things of that nature. A couple of those characters still kind of remain today. You know, I think the first character that I learned to do was probably Donald Duck. You know, and it kind of went on from there. And at a certain point, I actually met the legendary Mel Blanc, and his advice to me, which I really took to heart, was stop doing the impressions. You know, do your own characters, do original stuff. Bugs Bunny wasn't an impression of anybody. Daffy Duck wasn't an impression of anything. These were original characters, and I took their characteristics, and that's where the, you know, that's what you should be doing. And I really took that to heart, and little did I know that voice matching was going to become such a big part of the industry. Oh well.
So, how did you then get involved with StarCraft?
Well, StarCraft, I was actually brought in at the very beginning of the process. Someone who was working with Blizzard at the time, knew that they were looking for some scratch track voices. I don't know if you and your audience are familiar with what scratch tracks are. But essentially, yeah.
Yeah, if you would explain that to us, that would be amazing.
Well, my understanding is essentially it's what animators will work off of when they're just trying to lay down the basic story. So they can get an idea of timing. So they'll have actors or even people within their own company read the script at a sufficient pace, with a decent enough acting style so they can really kind of get the idea for the energy of the scene. Then after that, after they have some of the animation done, they'll have the actors that they've hired come in and really lay down the dialogue, and then they can adjust character faces and lip sync and things of that nature, to fit the actual actor's cast. But to get some of the process started, they do what are known as scratch tracks. So I was hired to do the scratch tracks by Blizzard. And one of the characters that I was doing was Tychus Finlay. Interestingly enough, for a couple of weeks I actually did Arcturus Mengsk. But then, I guess that, you know, at that point they already knew the character from the first game. They didn't need a whole lot of scratch work done. Tychus was a different story because he was a brand new character. So, after they had gotten all the scratch work done, they actually had auditions for the game, and I was asked to audition for the game. Fortunately, they liked me enough where they decided to keep me on for the game. So that's kind of how I started working on StarCraft.
Mm-hmm. I've been told that the people at Blizzard were so happy with your performance that they actually changed the script and made your role bigger. Is that true?
That's my understanding. That's what Chris Metzen told me after after a recording session one day, and of course it was probably the biggest compliment I've ever received in my career. And it meant a lot, and I'm mostly glad that the StarCraft fans in general didn't hear that story until after the game came out, because if they found out the game had been delayed because of me, I might have gotten myself into some trouble. That's all I'm going to say.
What was the group dynamic with the other voice actors? I mean, since you're recording most of the scenes alone, how much time did you actually spend together? Was there something like Terran voice actors versus Protoss voice actors or something like that?
No, I wish it was fun like that, but not really. It, you know, to be honest with you, I spent more time probably working with the scratch track, Jim Raynor, than I did working with Robert, in fact. I met Robert in passing, at a recording session one day, and he's such a great guy that, you know, we hit it off right away, and we've been friends ever since. But for the most part, I met everybody at BlizzCon 2009, just before we were introduced, to the StarCraft universe on pay-per-view around the world. That was the first time that I had met really everybody in that capacity. I had worked on other stuff with Dave Fennoy before. Fred Tatasciore and I have done several games together. But because of the nature of video game work, if you see anybody, it's they're leaving, you're going in. You're leaving, they're coming in. You know, it's that sort of a thing.
Yeah,
but,
you talked. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, but most video game work isn't done together, unfortunately.
You talked about Robert Clotworthy a little bit. One of my viewers asked a question. He said, Chris Metzen has said once that Tychus is a metaphorical devil on Raynor's shoulder, and he wanted to know if you're the devil on Robert Clotworthy's shoulder as well.
Not totally. But we have done a couple of conventions together, and we'll be doing a couple more, and there are times when, you know, but it's a little bit of vice versa, you know. Robert's a little bit, Robert's not so pure and kind as Jim Raynor, I'll have you know, and Robert likes to be a little bit of a devil on my shoulder sometimes too. But no, unfortunately, I'm not. That's more of a Tychus Jim thing. But I would have to say, you know, the reason I'm probably not more of a devil on Robert's shoulder is Robert has such a long and varied career that, you know, I myself as an actor just kind of stand back and have respect and awe for that. You know? So, in our relationship, I'm not quite as, confident and ballsy as Tychus is in that relationship. You know, I'm a bit more, a bit more reserved, a bit shyer. Now, if you want to say I'm a devil on his shoulder just because, from a humor standpoint, from a matter of pointing out the joke and maybe getting him in trouble in that respect, okay, maybe a little bit.
All right.
Maybe a little bit.
Another viewer-submitted question was, how do you feel about your character already being dead? He says, in his opinion, he felt that Tychus had a lot of potential to add to the StarCraft 2 universe, and it's almost a shame to have one of the most interesting new characters added to the game killed off in the first act. Do you agree?
Well, there are a couple of different ways to look at that question. You know, I'm an actor. I also write stories. I've got a graphic novel that I've written and we're trying to get to market. So I kind of understand, storytelling a little bit. And from a storytelling standpoint, it's you know, whenever you kill off a strong character, it's a pretty strong statement. And it, it can make it more interesting. Now, contrary to anything Jim Raynor may tell you, it is science fiction. Okay, so, as we saw in Star Trek II and Star Trek III and so many other films and video games and books, dead ain't always dead.
All right.
So I'm not saying he is. I'm not saying he isn't.
All right.
I will say certainly Tychus is one of my favorite characters that I've ever played, and certainly in video games, definitely in my top 2.
All right.
Definitely in my top 2. He's a fascinating character. I'm not saying I haven't worked on him anymore, but I'm not saying I have. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But if I get the opportunity to hang out with Tychus a little bit more, I'll certainly be happy to do it. I don't know if many of your viewers have checked out the audiobook Heaven's Devils, but I actually did the audiobook for a prequel. It's sort of a origin story for both Tychus and Raynor, and so if people like Tychus, they may want to either read that book or, even better, listen to the audio, because of course Tychus does make an appearance in the game, of course. It'd be kind of hard for me to narrate that book and not really let Tychus play Tychus, if you know what I mean.
All right, I will definitely put a link to Amazon or another page.
It's on audible.com or on iTunes.
All right, perfect. I'm going to put a link in the video description. Okay. Cool. On the next 3 questions, because we talked a little bit about storytelling, I would like to know what Neil Kaplan's answer is and what Tychus Finlay would answer. If you want to know what questions I asked and much more importantly, what he replied, what his answers were, just click on the video right now and you're going to be beamed into the second part.